Hello, my name is Drew Rabidoux. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I am also a ketamine assisted psychotherapist, certified in ketamine assisted psychotherapy. Just to give you a basic overview, ketamine is a FDA approved drug. It was approved in 1972 and is used mostly in hospitals in an anesthesia setting as well as pediatric settings where they have to do painful procedures and they need some help, sort of helping the child be able to manage the pain, as well as a fast acting antidepressant in the emergency room where someone comes in is acutely suicidal, so they want to end their life. Um, it is used in the therapy capacity because there was a law that was passed several years ago in some states, not every state. You would want to look up and see if your state is one of them. But it was basically allowed to take ketamine in a therapeutic setting. Ketamine assisted psychotherapy is not going out and taking ketamine on your own. It is under the guidance of, or under the observation, I should say, of a licensed therapist or some kind of licensed clinical basically counselor. There's LMHCs, there's LCSWs, depending on your state. So you would want to make sure that that person is licensed and preferably certified in ketamine assisted psychotherapy. So there's three parts to ketamine assisted psychotherapy. The first is the preparation sessions. Preparation sessions look a lot like a regular therapy session. So you would go in to meet the therapist. Ideally, they get to know you, you get to know them. You see if you feel comfortable with that person. You start to talk about what are the things that I want to approach or process in ketamine assisted psychotherapy, and what are my intentions in using ketamine in my therapy journey. The next part would be dosing. So that would be when you come in with your prescribed ketamine from a medical professional. I work with a medical team called Journey Clinical, and they screen and prescribe to my clients sublingual lozenges. They're little powdery lozenges that go under your tongue and they dissolve for at least 12 minutes and then you spit them out. So how that looks in a setting of being with your therapist is you come in with your meds. So ideally you've already had several prep sessions with this same therapist. So on the day of dosing, you come in with your ketamine and your therapist will sort of direct you around how to take the medicine, although you also have some directions from the medical team. So basically, the therapist takes on the role of like being your helper. But before you even started taking the medicine, the therapist is not allowed to touch the medicine. So they would give you several cups. I use little Dixie cups, so they're little cups that you could put your ketamine in, the lozenges. So you get a dose and typically a booster. A dose is usually two different lozenges, and then the booster is an additional 100 milligrams. Everyone metabolizes ketamine differently, so that everyone will sort of need a different dosage. And they do some determining of that before they prescribe, but also it's a lot of observing what happens when you take it and is it enough? Are you able to go deep enough? We'll talk a little bit about that. Or do you need a higher dose? So the first session looks different than the subsequent ones. So the first session, you are going to separate out your full dose into two different cups. So you'll have 3 cups. 2 different cups get half of the full dose, and then the third cup has your booster. And the reason for this is that the first time you have a session, the protocol is to take half of the dose, and then your therapist will help you, with passing you the cup to spit it out. She or them, they will be keeping time to make sure you're holding the ketamine long enough to be able to help you with anything that you need during that time. After you have sat with the lozenge under your tongue for at least 12 minutes, you would spit out, lay down, and the therapist will leave you to have your experience for 20 minutes. At the end of 20 minutes, the therapist will come back and will ask you, would you like to take the other half a dose, or would you like to take the other half of the dose with the booster? And you would be conscious enough to be able to say which choice you want to make. So if you decide to take the other half the dose and the booster, we would just combine and give you the cup so that you put the lozenges under your tongue again, sit for an additional 12 minutes where you'll swish. At the end of the 12 minutes, the therapist tells you, okay, you can spit. Then we help you lay down. You have headphones in that have special music that enhance your ketamine experience. And we would leave you in your experience until you come out of it, which everyone knows when they're coming out. It feels like you're not in that deep state of dissociation. So dissociation is basically your ego dissolves. So you're able to see things in a different way. Many people do not make progress in therapy because they have these unconscious, out of awareness, automatic responses to things. So, for example, if I'm working with a client and I'm asking questions about something difficult, that client is going to automatically, without even realizing, shut down certain parts of the experience to not be able to have a really candid conversation sometimes, or be completely forthcoming with the therapist about what they're struggling with. Ketamine takes that away and it allows the person to look at different things without the emotional overwhelm, which would cause you to withdraw from going through all the things that you need to discuss. So we also will work with clients to develop things that they would like to explore. So we call it intention. And intentions would be, I've had people come in and say, I want to know why I need people's approval so badly. Why do I seek people's approval so badly? And there could also be, why do I feel so guilty about this thing? Or why can't I get past this thing? Or why do I have such a hard time with control, of needing to have control? And through the journey, which lasts about, the first time lasts almost the full 3 hours. We allow for 3-hour appointment. The subsequent times, when you take all the full dose and the booster, if you choose all at once, would be shorter. But it really depends on the individual and how you metabolize the ketamine. I'm not going to go too far into how ketamine impacts the brain, because there's so many YouTube videos about it from actual brain neuroscientists and neurologists and things like that, who can explain and give pictures, which I can not do. So that's something to search after you look at my video as well. I'll try to put the links to some videos that I particularly like about it so that you can see. So it basically allows your brain, different parts of your brain. It's like taking a snow globe and shaking it up, right? If you have a snow globe that's sitting, all the snow is settled, right? You take the snow globe, you shake it up, it's all over. So it's like your brain is all lit up, different places, communicating with each other without the emotional overwhelm, because you have ketamine on board. So that experience when you're in the dosing appointment is really important. After the third part of the ketamine assisted psychotherapy is the integration therapy that happens. That means taking what you learned in your ketamine experience, and it's sort of like installing it into your life. So, for example, with the person that thought, why do I care so much about what other people think? They might get some insight around, you know, well, it's because when I was a child, I was expected to regulate my parents' emotions. So it is important to me to regulate emotions for people or what they think about me, because the approval of my parent was so important to my well being, right? You can have sort of nuggets of really useful information given to you by just being able to have a moment where you're not completely immersed in your own stuff or what's going on around you, and not emotionally overwhelmed, so you can actually do the processing. So I've seen a lot of really profound changes in people's anxiety, people's depression, the way that people have been conditioned to respond to things, triggers of trauma. And if you're curious about ketamine and ketamine assisted psychotherapy, I would definitely suggest that you look for videos about ketamine assisted psychotherapy from credible people. There are different major universities that have programs or have done studies, or you can also reach out to a ketamine assisted psychotherapist in your area. Journey Clinical is a great resource to find a therapist. If you're interested in talking to me, if you're in New York, Texas, Connecticut, or Wisconsin, where I'm licensed, I would be able to work with you. So you can reach out as well, and feel free to post your questions.